In part 2 of our series on rhythm, we're going to look at how rhythms are organized within the context of the entire staff, as well as answer a point of confusion that perplexes pretty much all beginners to rhythm, and that is, why have we arbitrarily decided that 1/4 note is equal to 1 beat? Now, I've kind of given the game away by saying that this is completely arbitrary. The reason why we normally define 1/4 note as 1 beat is simply because we decided to do so, and because the overwhelming majority of music organizes music based on quarter notes. Now, this will make a lot more sense when we remember that notes and rhythms are grouped into bars. For example, this dotted half note here represents bar 1, these 3/4 notes represent bar 2, and this half note with a quarter note represents bar 3, with this bar here grouping this half note and quarter rest, and this would be bar 4, and so on and so forth. Now, if we do a little bit of analysis, we can see that each of these bars contains exactly the same number of beats, which in turn is determined by something that we call the time signature. So let's take a step back and analyze the time signature, which usually is found right at the beginning of the first bar that we see here, right before the first note. So in this case, time signatures look a lot like fractions, and this is often the best way to analyze time signatures, but we don't refer to this as 3/4 or 3/4. We refer to this as 3/4 time. So what exactly do the numbers within the time signature mean? Well, the top number actually determines the number of beats that are found in every bar of the piece of music that we're reading on this particular staff. So, for example, if we take a look at bar 2, we can see that there are 3/4 notes in this bar, which means that there are 3 beats in this bar. Now, in bar 3, there is a half note, which is 2 beats, and a quarter note, which is 1 beat, which is also 3 beats. In bar 4, it's identical to bar 3, except for the fact that instead of a quarter note, we have a quarter rest, but the rhythm or the duration of each of these notes and rests is identical to bar 3, and of course we see an application of the dot in the dotted half note in bar 1, meaning that we have a half note which is 2 beats, and 2 times 1.5 from the dot is 3, so we can see that the 3 in 3/4 clearly indicates the number of beats that need to be in each bar. Each bar only has 3 beats. Now, previously, I said that time signatures are often best viewed as fractions, where we can end up with the fraction 3/4 simply by doing 3 times 1/4. Well, the fraction 1/4 we can represent as a quarter note, meaning that each bar in 3/4 time has a total of 3/4 notes or equivalent values. In other words, the bottom number represents which note is arbitrarily decided to be 1 beat. And this is most often why a quarter note is defined as 1 beat, because the most common time signatures are all a number multiplied by 1/4, where the bottom number specifically determines what the note value is that is going to be 1 beat. So if we take a look at a different but closely related time signature, 4/4, the top number 4 tells us that there are 4 beats in the bar, and the bottom number, which we can represent as 1/4. 1/4 is a quarter, so that tells us that a quarter note is defined as 1 beat, meaning that one bar of 4/4 is going to contain 4 quarter notes, or notes of equivalent rhythmic value. So if we do some quick and easy practice, you'll see that time signatures are nothing to worry about. So let's take a look at this first example here. Top number always tells us the number of beats in the bar, which is 6, but here it's 6 times the fraction 1/8, which is an eighth. And therefore, we can see here that it's not actually a quarter note that is going to be 1 beat. It's actually an eighth note that is defined as 1 beat. But again, according to rhythm, the decision to make a quarter note equal to 1 beat is completely arbitrary, and it actually depends on the time signature. If we go to a more straightforward time signature, 2/4, top number means 2 beats per bar. Bottom number, this would be the equivalent of 2 times 1/4. 1/4 is a quarter, which means that the quarter note is equal to 1 beat. With the time signature of 4/2, which you don't see very often, but you do see it every now and again, there are 4 beats per bar, but instead of an eighth note or a quarter note, the bottom fraction would be 1/2, which is a half, meaning that it's actually a half note that is 1 beat, meaning that 1 bar of 4/2 would have 4 half notes or notes of equivalent rhythmic value, and so on. So if we take a look at 6/4, 6 beats per bar, 1/4 is the bottom fraction, so quarter notes would be equal to 1 beat. 5/8 is a rather interesting time signature that has a particular rhythmic flavor to them. 5 beats per bar, as the top number indicates. The bottom fraction is going to be 1/8, meaning that there are eighth notes that define what 1 beat is rather than quarter notes. And finally, you definitely don't see 4/16 very often, but it is hypothetically possible. 4 beats per bar, as the top number indicates, and the bottom fraction would be 1/16, meaning that the 16th note is actually defined as 1 beat. Now, to practice your fluency of reading time signatures, you can take a look at the practice problems below, starting with number 2. So, taking a look at the durations of each of the individual groups of rhythms listed below, first see if you can identify which combination of rhythmic values add up to exactly 1 bar of 3/4 time. And again, the first thing to identify is what does the top number in the fraction mean and what does the bottom number in the fraction mean. Once you have completed this exercise, you can take a look at the practice problems below, which will serve as a general test to see if you can read the rhythmic values of indicated notes and identify the number of rhythms or specific rhythms that would be appropriate for a specific time signature.